Today on Double World, I'm going to show you how to take your old beat up door panels and make them look like new. If you're ready to check it out, sit back and let's go. Do your door panels look like this? All warped and waterlogged? The reason why is most of the time people do not replace the moisture barrier behind the doors. Very simple to do. Cut a piece of plastic, just trim it around for your door handle and your window crank, and you can just use some silicone or double-sided tape to glue it into place. I will be replacing these door panels, making some new ones to go here so this doesn't happen again. You can do your plastic one of two ways. You can either trace your door panel on the plastic, or you can lay the plastic on the door and just trace on the door. What I did is I traced around the door panel first, and then I trimmed it a little bit short and put it up against the door here to make sure everything aligns. You don't want the plastic too tall or too wide. You want to make sure it fits behind the door panel. You are going to have to cut out for your holes for the door panel clips, also things like your window crank, your door handle, armrest, anything else that you may have on the panel. Make sure you mark those holes and you cut them appropriately. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm using magnets to hold the plastic in place against the door. You can use tape, magnets, whatever you wish. I like using the magnets because it makes it easier. So this is the mess you have to deal with when there's no moisture barrier on your door panels. Look at this thing, all warped and wrinkled, a real mess. So compare this old and original panel to one I've already done here. Look at the difference. After you get your door panel off, you want to remove all the clips. I would say pay special attention to the direction the clips are in the door panels, because you want to make sure you replicate that when you put it back together. You may actually have two different types of clips in the door panel. You've got this style here, which is typically the older style, and you got these here, which are the later style. But they do pull and they slide in. I would recommend you buying some more of these, because chances are you're probably going to have some missing or broken ones. Get ready to remove the skin, the covering from the old door panel. You're just going to have to pry out the staples. And you can see here, once you do that, then you just peel back the cover and just separate it from the panel. And this panel has some real thin padding, for lack of a better word, behind it. But you can see when they built these panels, they embossed it after everything was done. And you can see how this is cut from the embossing. See that here? Now, I'm not worried about any of this. I'm not using any of the padding. I'm just gluing this straight to the new board. I don't want to have to worry about this. If you want to keep padding in yours, then you'll need to carefully remove this and re-glue it to the new door panel. And that is something you can do. Just be careful when you're pulling it apart that you don't rip everything. I've slowly peeled this back, and all of the padding is left on this panel. Again, like I mentioned, you can peel this off and glue it to your new panel if you want to have the padding. You can see how it's embossed in here. Totally up to you. Again, I'm not using this. One less step to do. The staples in these door panels are really shallow. This is a problem to try to find something that can match this. If you can't find short staples like this, you can glue the panel, the cover onto the panel, which I am doing here on these. I do have some short staples as well, but they are a little bit long. We're going to see how they work out. You do want to make sure when you cut these and you put all your holes in, you test fit it on your car door. You may need to trim it. You want to make sure everything's right, because when you're tracing over an old panel, especially something that is a mess like this, See, this one is really bad. Look at how it's so damaged from the water. You may not get an accurate pattern, so you want to test with the panel up against the door. Keep in mind too, the new board here is a thick, heavy duty, more rigid board. This is pretty much glorified cardboard. I mean, it's just a thicker cardboard, but it's very, very thin and a lot lighter. But as you can see here, we've got a good comparison, the before and the after. This is what we're using to recreate our door panels. This Equa board, which is pretty much a super hard type of cardboard. This is used for paneling in homes. It's got a smooth side on it. It's got a rough side on it. You can buy a 4x8 sheet of this for about $15 in the store. And just to do the two front panels, I used half of this, and I still have pieces left over. Before you start tracing out this pattern, make sure you get a nice level flat working surface, a table or a flat floor. And what you're going to want to do, preferably if you have a table, I've got this folding one here, you're going to want to lay your board, your original board, door panel, against your new board. And you need to clamp it down in some way if it's all warped like this, so you get the best possible shape when you trace it. So you're going to trace out your panel, mark your holes for your clips, your door release and your window, armrests, anything else that you have in here. Make sure you mark those holes. After you've traced this, then you're going to want to cut it out. You can use a jigsaw, which is a little reciprocating saw, a Dremel, a table saw, anything that you have that can make the straightest line possible is going to be best. So you want super straight lines if you can do it. When you go to cut your board, you want to cut on the inside of the line you traced so that you don't have the board too long. If you've got a sander of some sort, a belt sander, that's going to help you as well. So I would recommend tracing it on the smooth side and cutting it out. And then once you've got it cut, you're going to need to fit it against your door and make sure that everything lines up. Before you even think about covering your new panels, please, 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 I can't stress this enough, test fit. Make sure everything goes in. Now, keep in mind, these clips, the angles of these clips, these holes you put in, you can see how the clip is going to have to turn one way or another to line with the holes. So don't be too preoccupied with that right now. You want to get just 4 in the corners. Make sure they're aligned. Make sure the panel is sitting nice against the door, top, bottom, all the edges. Now the panels do have to bend, but as soon as you see that it looks aligned correctly, then you can go ahead and do your cover on here. Like I said, make sure the holes line up, everything's lined up, places for your armrest. Once that looks good, you know you're ready to proceed. You're going to want to set your new door panel into your existing material cover and see how it fits in here. Test it in the door, but also you want to see if this cover fits so you know if your panel's been cut correctly. It's going to be real easy to tell because of the edges. If they match up, then you know you've done a good job. If you need to trim it, then you can go ahead and do that. But do this test fit before you do any type of gluing, just to make sure you're on the right track. Everything looks like it lines up. Looks like in here, these holes may be a little bit off. They still are there, but I'll be checking it against the car. Now, before you start assembling it, it's a good idea to clean the door panel. I got a magic eraser here and a paper towel. You can see the dirt on this. These magic erasers are a little bit abrasive, not going to damage the vinyl, but spray your favorite cleaner on here and just give it a nice good rub. Try to get the dirt out, because now you got a nice hard surface to work on. You can get these clean and looking like new. You want to make sure you're using top quality glue, contact adhesive. This is something I bought from an upholstery store. Just make sure that it's heavy duty, because you don't want your material to fall off the panel. So when you use this glue, you're going to spray it on the panel and you're going to spray it on your old cover, and then you have to mate the two together. And I'm sorry, because I need both hands while I'm doing this. I can't show you guys the process of holding it with one hand and spraying it with the other. But cover your panel on the rough side. That's what I'd recommend, because there's more for the glue to bite into. And then spray your cover. Make sure you get it as close to the edge as you can. You don't want to get this overspraying on the material or your surroundings, like your car or anything like that, so be very careful about it. If you do get it on something, get it off as quickly as you can before it dries. But once you've got the glue on, then you're going to want to lay your panel, hold one edge, line it up with one edge, and then make sure everything fits correctly in here. Check your corners to make sure they're overlapping fine. Now, these panels and materials not always cut even, so you may have more showing on one side than the other, but you want to make sure everything lines up with the corners, because once you push this down, it's going to get sticky and it's going to be hard to reset in place. You may have to work where you're peeling part of it and spraying. And what I would do is I would work from the center and push outwards to make sure it's nice and smooth and you get these things like these wrinkles out. And I'll be peeling this edge away, spraying some more glue in there. Same thing with back here to make sure everything lays down flat. Now, especially with this panel, because I removed the padding underneath, it's gonna be a little bit different shape. So once I get the glue around the edges, then I'll make sure this gets all smoothed out, all these wrinkles are gone, and then I'm gonna glue with the contact cement around the very edge of the panel. So we'll come back to that in just a minute here. Keep in mind, if you're spraying glue, if you've got a vinyl panel like this, it doesn't matter if you put it on a little thick. If you have cloth, that's a whole nother story. It can seep through, ruin your upholstery. So this is specifically talking about vinyl. So I've sprayed it here around the edges. I'm going to tuck it down in here, and then I'm going to smooth out the wrinkles. And I need both hands to do this properly, so I'm going to cut it for now. All right, so you want to smooth it after you've glued it, tacked it down. Smooth it as much as you can, and then you're going to want to set this panel face down on a flat, smooth surface, and then press on the back of the panel to try to make sure you smooth all this out. I decided to glue the edges of the door panel material down, even though I will be stapling this, just so it's a nicer seal all the way along the edge. I had some glue left over from when I did the top of the convertible. It's a contact cement. Just figured I might as well use it. You don't have to glue the edges. You can just staple them if you want. Well, guys, I had a little bit of an epic fail here, because the smallest staples I could find were 1/4 inch, and this board is supposed to be 1/4 inch. But when you staple through, if you press down too hard, it will actually come through the other side. So that's something you got to be careful about. I did have 1 or 2 come through the other side. Just a tiny amount. But what I've decided to do is just, since I glued it, just leave it glued, and I may just staple the corners just to keep the corners from coming undone. But that's something to be careful about, is you can't press too hard or you're gonna make these staples go through the other side. Well, here it is, everybody. See, the panel came out pretty nice. smooth. Didn't get any wrinkles in it. Definitely looks a lot better than it did before. Since the Mexican Beetle door panels don't have pockets, I found these Jeep pockets on Amazon, which I thought might be kind of cool to have in there because, you know, if you have a VW, your storage space is pretty limited. So we're going to add these to the door panels, and I think that kind of adds to the off-road look as well. I went ahead and installed the door pockets, as you can see here. If you're going to do something like this, you got to be very careful because you see these screws that comes with it are super long. And I debated whether I wanted to rivet or use these screws, but I decided I'd use these screws and then cut off the ends inside because obviously you don't want these sticking into your door through your vapor barrier. So I'm going to take my Dremel here and I'm going to cut the screws off. When it's time to put your clips in the new door panel, hopefully you remembered to take a photo of your old panel so you can see the angle the clips are in. This will help you when you go to place it in the car. If you don't have them exactly right, you can adjust them when you get in there. There's a couple things I want to point out with these panels. First of all, this is not going to be a show car panel. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, I took the padding out. Now the padding serves a couple of purposes. It makes it a little bit more luxurious, but it also can hide these clips inside. Now, one word of caution, when you're test fitting these panels or installing them for the final time, you may accidentally push these boots out. If you put the plastic barrier in, obviously you're gonna have to peel it back off to put the boots back in. If they come off, it's no big deal, but just keep that in mind. Don't get frustrated. Unfortunately, my phone ran out of memory when I was filming the last step about aligning the clips before you install the final panel. So after you've installed all of your clips, you need to make sure all of those clips align with the holes in the door. Set your panel against the door and adjust the clips so that they are facing the holes properly. Once you get that done, you can go ahead and push your panel in and you'll be finished with the project. And this is the finished result. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll take an opportunity to restore your own door panels and save yourself about $150. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Dub World.